Thank you. Welcome to Unity of Palm Harbor. Thank you. So most people go to the Mexico waters and they get sunshine, and I go and get a cold. You know, I think it's kind of ironic because about 5 years ago I went to Alaska and got sunburned. So maybe if you want to come play with me, just play opposite day, and that's what's going to happen. That is so much like a new resolution, right? When we get to look inside and say, what do I want to claim? What do I want to declare to be true about me for 2024? How do I want to support myself? How do I want to show up? So I'm going to share something else. I put it on the Facebook page. This, again, is Mara Hayes. I'm just going to brag about you a little bit. She sent something to me, and I said, did you write this, or did this come from someone else? She went, no, I wrote it. So I clipped it out, and I put it on my bedroom mirror, because even I need to be juiced up once in a while. So I love this. Listen to these words. I am held, loved, sourced with everything I need. Divine wisdom shows up as clarity in everything I do, as guidance and energy, order and creativity. Peace, be still. How does that feel? I am sourced in everything I do. Sourced. Not only does it say I am sourced, as I get to claim it, but the word source, another word for God, infinite being, infinite possibilities, is in that beautiful word. So now we get to declare ourselves as also divine, sourced. We are source, not even a past tense. We are currently in our very essence of pure source. How does that feel? Is it empowering? That's big stuff. That's big stuff. So coming up with the talk today, I really wanted to impress upon us that we are already in a holy place. That this moment, this time, this current 20 minutes, we are already in a holy place. And I really thought about what's up in the world for many of us. Things changes. Things like the voice going away. Now, I know I'm usually the loudest one in the room, and now y'all get squeak and squatch. What is that message? It happened on the cruise with 95 other New Thought people and about 10 ministers, and I had to be quiet. So I thought, God, what is this message? One, I was tired. That was true. But two, if you can't talk, what can you do? Listen. Why do you think we have 2 ears and 1 mouth? So I've been listening. What is up for you? What is happening in your life? Good or not so good? Are there changes that you did not predict 6 months ago? Maybe not even 3 months ago. Have people come and gone in your life? Is there an opportunity for someone you love very much to cross the veil? How are we with that? Because in our own nature, we want to hold on to those that we love. But what if they're ready to go? Maybe our job is to love them. Just love them. Don't ask them how they got there. Don't condemn the diagnosis. Just be that divine presence. Because those decisions are not our earthly ones to make. So let's look at something else. Maybe your job changed form. Maybe that teenager finally left the house, went to college, got a job, paid for their own car, paid for their own insurance. Something is shifting. We are going through a cataclysmic, if that's the right word, I'm just making it up now, shift in the universe. And sometimes we're like on that wind of the kite, and we're hanging onto the tail, and it's just whooshing us back and forth. And sometimes we're on top of that kite, manning that sail. And all of it is holy. All of it is God. Because we believe that there is no place you can be that God is not. And if that is true, it's in great times of flash and exuberance, and it's also in those quiet times of deep reflection. When the world turns colder physically, as it is, that was in the earth religions a time to be still, a time to go within, a time to gather your own thoughts and prepare for the spring, what you wanted to create. And we all need the rest. Our bodies call for it. So for 10 days, I've been developing a class, but I've been trying to rest. And today is the best the voice has been in 10 days. So that tells me there's a really big message out there. So I look at these times of change and opportunities, and I even go back to some of our Bible stories. And you know the story about Abram in Sarai? He became Abraham, white stone. She became Sarah. But in the early days, he was about 75 years young when he had his first revelation with God. And God said, I'm going to make you the father of nations. I'm going to bring your people to prosperity. And God's kind of like, how's that sound, Abraham? And he's like, well, that's all right, God. But I'd really like to be a father of my own child. My wife wants to have a baby. God takes that in God timing. About 25 years later, they have another chat. Sarah's like, yo, Abraham, let's get with it. You know, in the old days, if a woman could not get pregnant, it was thought that they had caused upset to God, and they were being punished, and they were carrying through the sins of the fathers. So finally, at 100 years old, Abraham does his thing, and Sarah gets pregnant, and she has that child. And do you remember what happens when the child is about 10 years old? Do you remember the story in the Bible? Well, Abraham has to prove his faith to that all-bearing God out there. And so he gets this message that he has to take his child and sacrifice him. Do you remember this? So he goes up there on the mountaintop and takes 2 men servants with him, and he takes kindling wood to start this fire. And he has that altar laid out in the perfect place and tells those 2 men to kind of stay by the side. He didn't want them to see what was going to happen. And his son is all bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. Dad, what are we doing? Dad, what are we doing? And he's willing to sacrifice his son to prove his faith. And I had to look at that from a different perspective. What are we willing to sacrifice to prove our faith? Our faith that we really believe that we are all that and then some. That we have the opportunities in life to create exactly what we want. But we have to be willing to give up that old stinking thinking that came from everybody before us. What are we willing to do when we say the lamb of the altar? We are the lambs. We are the chosen children. We are the beloved. And we have that power. But we have to let go of something. And that something may be really important to you up until this moment. Because in the quiet and the stillness, when we have our God time, and we say, in our dream state, this is what I want. And it doesn't always happen right away. Abraham was favored. It took 25 more years. I truly looked at my father more than 20 years ago on the back deck of my porch with 2 pre-teenage kids. And I said, I want to be a unity minister. I want to be a family and child unity minister. And my father said, in his very astute way on the phone, do you know how much money a minister makes? You have 2 kids to get through college. I don't believe this is your calling. So what did I do? Packed up that little girl dream and put it on the back shelf for almost 25 years. So my kids grow, they go to college, they do what they do. And I'm at this new place in my life. And then I get that diagnosis we talked about. And that was really an eye-opener. Are you doing what you were meant to do when you came on this planet Earth? Are you walking your incarnation? Are you pleasing everybody else? And sometimes that feels good. You know, it was good to take my kids on vacation. It was good to be able to help pay for their college. It was good that we had a home that was warm in a very, very modest neighborhood. It wasn't so good that the kids that were in the school drove cars worth more than our house. But there you go. We all have our things. And then we got to this place. I was an empty nester. And you would think, freedom, yes, you can do anything you want to. You don't have to clean your house or go to the grocery store on anybody else's timetable. And then there was that diagnosis. And my aunt came to be with me as I sat in front of the doctor. Because when I first heard the word cancer, I couldn't even take it in. That was just like somebody else's problem. So she sat with me and we listened, and the first surgical procedure was going to be, the first availability was on the 13th, Friday the 13th. And my aunt went, are you sure you want to do that? I said, oh yes, that is the number of the goddess. I am all good. And we took care of business. But the deeper message of that for me was, wake up. What are you here to do? You have done for others, and you've done it pretty well. It fed you too. Is it your life's calling? Is this that you are doing today your life's calling? Now, some of y'all are retired. Some of y'all are hoping to be retired soon. That's just what you do. Who are you? Who do you want to show up to be now? What dream is in your heart? Do you teach right now? Do you want to be on stage? Do you want to speak inspiring words to others? Do you want to deeply study the meaning of the universe? Do you want to sing until tears roll down the cheeks of the people who are listening to you? It happened here Christmas Eve. What we thought was just going to be a beautiful duet, there were so many tears because it was pure. It was perfect. And we all got the message from God in the way we were ready and prepared to hear it. So that is our life's journey. What are we willing, that might feel pretty decent, to let go of, to walk in the glory land? Like to do and be more than you could ever imagine. And you don't always know what that looks like. I certainly didn't know it meant I was going to leave Georgia and come to Florida. And then the other day I thought about it. Somewhere in the Great Recession or right before that, I'm doing my little banker job, making my little loans, doing all that stuff. And then the Great Recession came. And if you know, all the banks were like, we're not making loans anymore. We're trying to figure out how to survive. Well, I didn't survive that job. I got another opportunity and worked with the FDIC and traveled around closing banks and selling assets. But about 5 years before that, I had gone to Las Vegas. You know, you either like Las Vegas or you don't. I don't think there's any in between. And I'm not a gambling fool because I know how hard it takes to make my money. But the creativity, I said, oh God, if I could ever live in Vegas. Well, I got the opportunity. In 2010, we worked in Hendersonville, Nevada, and closed banks and sold assets, deep security. And we had to live not in any kind of a hotel that had a casino on it because the appearance was wrong. But I lived there for 3 months. I loved it. Every night I'd go on my balcony, I'd watch the lights flash. On the weekends, if I stayed, I would go and I would watch the musicals. Be careful what you ask for. When I first got divorced, my children were 2 and 3 years old. I had an uncle in Jacksonville, had a bar. Loved my uncle, loved Jacksonville. Started applying for jobs in Jacksonville. God, I want to live in Florida. I know I want to live in Florida. Then my mother-in-law called me and she said, please don't take those babies from me. I put down those resumes, quit interviewing. Stayed in Atlanta almost 30 more years. Had no idea what this was going to look like. Then I go to ministerial school. They told me I've been in too much of a liberal unity. I need to come to a more Fillmorian unity. I'm glad y'all who get it. They said, Reverend Bob is a unity man. You need to go and study with him. So I came here. and did my internship for 4 months. I had to be like kind of set back in order, I guess. We were too crazy with all those California people coming to Georgia with these newfangled ideas. Things like spirit instead of God. So I came here for 4 months. And then time changed and COVID came and I came as a senior minister. And I'm telling y'all the truth. The other day when I was sitting down and just looking back, what did you ask for? And how long did it take to get it? And does it look like you thought it was going to look? And I'm going through that whole exercise. I thought, you asked God more than 30 years ago if you could move to Florida. Well, guess what, girl? You in Florida. It doesn't look like I thought it was going to look. And look how rich for me being in Florida. If you think you are learning from me, you are backing up. Because I am so learning from you. And I love when Bridget and I play and we create things for the children. And Darlene decorates and adds costume. And then we have newcomers who say, you know, I can lead the choir. I can do this. I can do that. Let me bake a cake. Come over here. I can do ceviche. I'll put a mermaid tail on for you. I'm like, y'all are just amazing. And I never, ever, ever, ever could have imagined this when my kids were 2 and 3 years old. So go into that heart space. Be willing to make that sacrifice. Because something grander, something greater, more than you ever can imagine, is already aligning within you and God. And you don't have to know what that looks like. Because I promise it probably isn't what you think it's going to look like. And yet we have that power. We can harness that creative energy, and if it doesn't go the way you thought, you can always make another choice. You've learned something. You've grown. You've become more of who you were already meant to be. So I invite you in this holy moment to close your eyes. Just close those outer eyes. Is there anything, if you pull back that Rolodex, and for those of you younger than the 70s, 80s, 90s, that's your little catalog system. Just look back at that Rolodex and say, God, what did I ask for? What are my dreams? What is it that I am becoming that I just haven't seen yet? For thou has all the answers, you're all-knowing, and that all-knowingness has already resided inside of me. And maybe it's something magnanimous that I'm doing, and maybe it's something really sweet, really gentle, that I can show up supporting someone in prayer, that I can just sit with them in times that are challenging, that I can make a rum cake, hint, hint, for my minister's birthday, hint, hint, that whatever is inspiring to me, I can bring that forward so that we, in our collective consciousness, might raise this vibration and know that this very moment, right here, right now, is holy too. Thank you, God. Thank you, Spirit. And so it is. Amen.